The original Lords of the Fallen came out in 2014, right when the big Souls-like craze was starting to begin. From my memory, this was one of the first big games to come out that was marketed as a Souls-like, and everyone was saying it was just like Dark Souls, which was an exciting prospect to many Dark Souls fans such as myself. But much to our dismay, it was absolutely horrible. However, it's been over 10 years since I last played it, and maybe I don't remember the game as well as I thought I did. Maybe I was a little too harsh on it back in the day. I mean, look at all these raving reviews from respected video game reviewers. Because we all know their scores aren't bought, and what they say actually holds weight, right? Maybe they were right though. Let's revisit Lords of the Fallen and go through it to find out. I'll start with the good parts of the game, and then lead into the negatives, because I think it's important to highlight what the game does good first. The first good thing about this game is that it's technically playable. Okay, now that the good parts are out of the way, let's get into the negatives. Dodge rolling is an important core mechanic to Dark Souls and Souls-like games, so it's pretty important that you get it right. Lords of the Fallen does not, however. This game's dodge feels like dodge rolling in the Faron Keep Poison Swamp. It feels like you're rolling through tar or something. Not only that, but when you first load in as the warrior class, your standard default roll is a fat roll. This shit ain't even close to usable. There are so many instances where I'm clearly dodging out of the way of an attack and I still get slammed by it. It's like there's barely any iframes at all. And once you get knocked down, it takes around 5 business days to get back up, and you can't dodge from being on the ground, which can lead to some amazing situations like this. On the topic of weapons, they're arguably the biggest part of a game like this. I mean, you're gonna spend the whole game swinging them around, so they should feel good to use, right? Well, not in this game. Just about every single weapon is swung as slowly as possible. It's like your character was in a coma for 10 years, and his muscles are so atrophied that he can barely lift his arms. The speed is so mind-breakingly slow. The crazy part is that if you two-hand a weapon, it somehow even makes you swing slower. The few weapons you can actually swing at a decent pace are horribly weak, and you can't upgrade them either to do more damage, because there's no weapon upgrading in the traditional sense. The way that upgrading works in this game is that some weapons will have rune slots, which you can fill with runes that give your weapon additional effects, such as bonus damage, poison damage, etc. Which could be fun, I guess, but it's a mechanic that, for me personally, I think sucks. Especially because you have to gamble your XP to increase the odds of getting better runes when you open them. Parrying with any shield but the buckler shield has to be the worst parry I've experienced in any game ever. It's so slow that it would just be quicker to mail your parry to the enemy. Along with that, this has to be the most pitiful kick ever. I don't even get the point of it. Because kicking an enemy doesn't really do anything, and if their shield is raised and you kick the shield, it doesn't do anything either. I want to take a quick second to gripe about some more minor stuff. But like, what the fuck are these default controls? Whoever made the default control scheme for this game needs to be locked away in an asylum. Not only that, you can't turn vibration off, which should be a crime. The screen also shakes like a chihuahua every time anything happens. And then sometimes there's a slow-mo effect. I guess it's supposed to be cinematic or something. But it just looks so bad. Like, even the first couple times that it happened to me, I thought my game was stuttering. A more major complaint, though. The sound is ass. I don't know how this game still has these bugs, because it's one I remember happening the first time I ever played this game. But half the sound effects and boss music just disappear sometimes. You'll clash a shield or hit an enemy, and it's just dead silent. What's not dead silent, though, is this guy breathing like a fat ass every time you get low on stamina. I mean, listen to this guy, it's actually crazy. Moreover, the boss music and music in general is some of the most generic sounding ass that I've ever heard in a game. The level design is another terrible aspect of this game. The areas are just horribly boring. The biggest extent that you can explore, really, is that there's just a billion doors that you can open up that lead to a laughably tiny room that contains, like, a singular chest or item and maybe an enemy. It's for real just pointless to have. The worst offender, in my opinion, is the jail area, which is pretty much just a long hallway where you turn sometimes. The AI was also super janky in countless spots. It was just acting weird. Like, sometimes it would just fully run past me. It's like, oh shit, I left the oven on, I gotta get home. And they just didn't care about me. Let's get into the last big important factor for a Souls-like game. Bosses and boss design. I think I would rather play a game where every single boss fight is the bed of chaos in a poison swamp. These bosses are that boring and that just flat out bad. The first boss is okay at best. As you do more damage, he explodes his armor off his body, which is alright. But he also has a giant shield, which your weapon just completely bounces off of. So the entire fight is basically just turn-based combat. You have to wait for him to swing, and only then are you really allowed to swing and do damage. I will say though, this boss probably has the most moveset variety of any of the other bosses I fought, which, as you'll see in a second, means just about nothing. The second boss is where over half the people that played this game stopped. And reasonably so, because the commander is so unapologetically bad. He's another dude with a big shield, so again, the entire fight is turn-based. Except for this time, it's at an even slower pace than the first fight. I could only get 2 swings in at a time before he would recover and then lift his shield to fully block me from doing anything. But this guy prolongs the fight even longer, because he'll turtle up and become immune to damage, and then summon an ad or two, because why not, I guess. The third boss has an AoE stun with a range of like 1,000,000 miles. He also summons ads, because that's a really cool mechanic. Let's just keep doing that, I guess. And then he has a move that covers the entire boss arena, and once it fully charges up, it'll just one-shot you, unless you get in these little gazebos. Which I only know about, because I remembered it from all those years ago, because that kind of stupid stuff just like sticks with you. As far as I know, there's nothing in the game that tells you to do this, and I only knew it because I watched a guide when I first played. But it's not like the gazebos like start glowing or something when he starts doing the move. They just look like they're part of the map. The fourth boss has a couple of moves, but almost exclusively only does one of them. It's a 3-hit combo, but it's so easy to avoid, you can just walk around to the left and fully avoid it. This is where the bosses felt like they were getting way too much HP. I was using the strongest weapon I had, and I was almost exclusively leveling my strength stat, and I was still doing no damage. You can break the armor on this boss's legs off, but you can't even lock onto the leg, so it's even like pointless to try to hit it. Because trying to hit something you're not locked onto on this game is just downright awful. Oh yeah, and for some reason she has a heal move too, where she just sits there and starts regaining like all of her health. The only fun I had with this boss fight was this bugged interaction. After beating this boss, you meet one of the most annoying NPCs of all time. And then you have to backtrack, because that's good design. The fifth boss has a charge attack that can be parried, and it seems like it's the only intended way for this boss to be fought, because any other method of fighting this guy is just so ass. The biggest problem though, is just how terrible the parry is. It takes so long for the parry to start up, that if he's just a little too close when he starts to charge you, it is actually impossible to parry it. Sometimes, even if you do hit the parry, if the timing isn't exactly right, you'll still take damage and get knocked back. You then have to clear this room, where the end of it is just a smaller version of the first boss that one-shots you for some reason. Fucking one-shot me? Dude! I don't even care what Antanas has to say. I don't care. I don't fucking care. Sir yaps a lot. None of this matters.
Harkin.
Nothing about this matters at all.
Straight.
Wow. If you're saying that I have to backtrack and walk all the way to the fucking third boss's area to get back to that world. I'm not playing this shit no more. If that's what's really happening right now. And that's exactly what I had to do. The 6th boss is by far the worst boss so far. The mechanic of it is that he has an armor bar, and once you break the armor bar, he gets staggered and puts his face near the ground. You can't go up to his head and do a visceral attack or anything, because no, that would be too cool. You just go up to his head and smack it, and that's the only real way to do damage to this boss. This boss was also just super janky and buggy. There were times where I was taking damage from him swinging, even though I was like fully out of range. I rolled through it, and I wasn't even getting staggered by it, so I know I didn't get hit by it. There were also several times where I'd break his armor bar, and he would randomly just get it completely refilled. And the best part was that there were several times where I was point blank hitting him with attacks, and it just wouldn't register the hit. As far as movesets go, this guy's moveset was also pretty bad. He has a 2-hit combo where he swings his little club, and then he also stomps the ground repeatedly to make Spike shoot out of it, with him spamming the hell out of the second one. The 7th boss is also pretty abysmal. It's so bad that even the game gives you an option to just skip it. It's like even the devs knew this guy was so ass, they just went, yeah, you don't have to fight this guy if you don't want to. He has 2 moves that he does constantly. He swings wildly like 5 times in a row, and if you get hit once, you get true comboed into a second hit. The second move is that he's summoning these little fireballs, and if you get hit by one, you're getting stun locked into getting the hit of the rest of them for a one-shot combo. Additionally, he also has the same problem as the last boss, where sometimes your hits just don't register. The animation on this guy is also just so bad, especially his dash. I've seen like college game projects have like better animation than this. I can't say anything about the rest of the bosses because I couldn't force myself to go any further. This game is so bad in just about every single way that a game could possibly be bad. There's only 4 bosses left for me to fight, and I can just about guarantee there's nothing that the rest of this game has in store that could possibly redeem it. I don't see how this game even like made it to public release. It's like it made it to the alpha testing phase of the game, and they said, yeah, good enough, just go ahead and release it. But that's just my opinion. If you played the game, what did you think about it? Probably hated it, because I think most people did, but, you know, some people liked it, I think. Let me know, and I'll see you next time.